With so many new video game to screen adaptations being released, one should only have reason to believe that all of our favorite video games will be coming to the big screens. Not just any video games, however. Obviously, there needs to be enough substance, quality, and plot to really drive any movie home. Well, at least it's better than rebooting a popular show from 30 years ago, taking the soul out of it, slapping a minority on there and calling it a day. Can't we just take it one Hollywood abusing our love for nostalgia in order to make a profit step at a time? Our favorite video games are coming to real life in one form or another, and honestly, I'm here for it. It's so interesting to see our favorite stories and fictional characters come to life. It makes these games feel all the more real and relatable in my opinion.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry! That was purely reactive!
Well, what the fuck do I know? If there's one movie that fits the requirements for game-to-screen adaptation, it has to be Ghost of Tsushima. It's got the plot, visuals, and a great concept for the main character's conflict. When something's based on a story, it's also always a bonus. In terms of storytelling, of course. This should go without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyways. These are obviously my personal requirements for what makes a great film. So of course, that begs the question,
why is Gamora?
What are those requirements? Well, I don't think you need to have the greatest fleshed out main character in order to draw people in. I think he just needs to be relatable. I think the two best ways to get people to fall in love with your main character is to, 1, set them up to be a victim because everyone loves a good comeback story. And 2, set them up to be the honorable hero. Not everyone is a hero, obviously, but I think everyone wants to be. And finally, 3, internal conflict. Our protagonist needs to make a critical decision that they struggle with throughout the story. Ghost of Tsushima has all of this, and not only the main character, but the whole island of Tsushima. Tsushima, as portrayed by Sucker Punch Productions, is a land of advice and guidance for our famous stealthy samurai, Jin Sakai. While beauty and opportunity reach all across this land, Tsushima is also unforgiving and protective. What truly makes this place great are the native people who go to great lengths to protect their homeland. The people of Tsushima give this land its identity. I said earlier that characters don't need to be fleshed out in order to have a good story, but everything about the story feels more complete because of how fleshed out these characters are. They struggle with themselves just as much as Jin Sakai, even those who seem most complete. I think this idea is best represented through Yuna. Yuna was captured and held prisoner alongside the people of her hometown by Mongol warlord Altan. She's a strong warrior who will do anything to save the people she cares about, but she's also scared. While very clever, she still recognizes the reality of her people's situation and is both frightened and angered by it. She's calm yet so fierce, and she represents Tsushima, its people, and us in the best way possible. Because she's real, she wants to do anything to free her people, but the trauma from being held captive doesn't just go away. She's been a warrior her whole life, which means she's never forgotten. Being trained to keep fighting is almost as a contradiction to healing and letting go of the past, because each time she trained, each time she fought, her friends and family were in the back of her mind. Everything the Mongols did to her was in the back of her mind. So when she finally goes out to fight for everything that she cares about...
Jin, I can't do this. I can't go back in there.
You don't have to. Stay here. I will deliver your vengeance.
Make them suffer, Jin. Taka. For every scar they gave us. For every head they collected from the tired workers who just asked for more water. Make them suffer for me.
She never let the memories in place that made her suffer behind. She couldn't only channel all of those memories into anger because that's not how life works. Yeah, the Mongols fueled her anger, but thinking of her family and friends only made her feel guilt and pain. It was like sharpening a double-edged sword. I think Yuna best fits the way we are and the way we want to be. We're all real people who go through real situations that we can't always control, and we feel emotions that we can't always control. We want to fight, grow, and be better, but we also have to accept our emotions and our reality. I know Jin Sakai represents all of this as well, but his character is constantly going over the line back when it comes to being real and relatable, and just being a full-on legendary honorable warrior. Bro's got perks and is wearing a full suit of body armor worth more than my city, okay? Yuna's a fictional character that feels real, that feels like she could be an important part of any story because of how relatable she is. The same feeling I get from the land of Tsushima itself, from the citizens, from Yuna, and of course, Jin. Jin doesn't want to be a hero or a samurai anymore. He just wants to save his uncle, and it's at this point that I'm most interested to see on screen the internal conflict that Jin Sakai faces. He must turn against the lessons and values taught by the very same people and land he's been forced to save. Up until this point, the experienced samurai was taught by his uncle only to face an enemy head on. In the eyes of uncle and his clan, that was the most honorable way to fight, and using stealth as a weapon in battle was heavily criticized. However, Jin Sakai had no choice. It was either his dignity or the land he loves and everyone in it. The game doesn't go out of its way to make Jin Sakai a legendary honorable hero. They obviously show you that idea, but it's really open to interpretation. Even when the people around Jin know it and the audience know it, Jin continues to struggle with the idea that he's an honorable person, and in turn, so do we.
When we fight, we face our enemy head on. When we take their life, we look them in the eye with courage and respect. This is what makes us samurai. Only cowards strike from the shadows.
What made him a hero is that he was willing to lay his life on the line, not for the title of course, but because he'll do anything for his people. And it's at this point that I'm most interested to see on screen the internal conflict that Jin Sakai faces. He must turn against the lessons and values taught by the very same people and land he's been forced to save. Up until this point, the experienced samurai was taught by his uncle not only to face an enemy head on, but to respect him. In the eyes of uncle and his clan, that was the most honorable way to fight, and using stealth as a weapon in battle was heavily criticized. However, Jin Sakai had no choice. It was either his dignity or the land he loves and everyone in it. Protecting your home is a universal story, and Ghost of Tsushima shows you the land alone is worth saving because of how alluring and stunning the environment is. The way the makers of this game use the weather and surroundings to guide and tell a story is phenomenal. This game feels like it's brought an island literally to life. It's this cinematography that I feel like will draw in moviegoers and the casual film experience. Ghost of Tsushima does such a simple yet complex job when it comes to shots, angles, and positioning of the characters. It all just comes together so beautifully. Without saying any words, the cinematography gives you a whole explanation of how our characters are really feeling that I really hope won't be ruined or messed with. I know it's such a small detail, but showing and not telling can be a critical part of any film. And I think Ghost of Tsushima really brings this to new heights with the way these shots are presented to us. The lighting, the ambient colors, and the sounds all blend in so perfectly. At no point does it ever feel one-dimensional. Every cutscene feels like it has its own unique perspective. It feels like the environment was made for whatever scene the story is focused on. The filmmakers need these little details because while I'm not Japanese or a samurai, I can tell that these details add up into what makes this story feel special. It gives into what our modern society already thought they knew about Japanese history and samurais, while never disrespecting what the real story is about. And I feel this is important because our Western society has a tendency to try to create a story where everyone in our current society can relate. This can't be that. It's not that. Once you would try to appeal to everyone, you get this completely watered down, stripped, just basic ass story. And the universal themes and storytelling in Ghost of Tsushima are never exclusive to Jin Sakai or anyone on the island to begin with, so you don't have to do that. I'm aware that it feels personal, but we all know how it feels to disappoint family members and go against the grain once in a while because we personally feel it's the best way. I guess what I'm saying is the story is already relatable. Maybe not on the surface, but it is. So it doesn't need this mainstream wide appeal in order for people to enjoy it. I feel like that should go without saying, but well, the story, characters, art, and lastly the satisfying payoff, all tied up with a bow, which is the fact that it's telling a real story that many people might not have ever heard of otherwise. All of these things are crucial in driving the plot forward. Without any one of these things, the game itself just wouldn't feel the same. That's how amazing each of these factors are. Each of them are so iconic and unique in their own way. Think of Avatar. And of course I mean the real Avatar. Each of these characters are iconic and special in their own way, but remove any one character and the story just doesn't feel the same. We can actually see this happen because the character Toph hasn't always been a part of the gang. And as great as those episodes are, the ones with Toph are just better. All that being said, I just don't know if they can pull it off on a big screen because a story like this takes time. It all has to make sense, and a really important factor is going to be the pacing. The pacing will tie it all together. I say this because the director of this movie, Chad Stahelski, does have some interesting things to say about adapting the video game into a movie, and while it makes me more excited to watch, it also scares me just a little bit. Because the story is being condensed down to 2 hours, I'm worried they'll leave out not just important story, but important ideas and details that made the story more unique and real. I think the biggest one is telling a story without words. Because the screen time is so limited, will production allow for space where the viewer can think to themselves for a moment? Angles, expressions, lighting, metaphor and items, symbols, actions. The secrets and stories within the stories will have people more than engaged. It creates further discussion, and that's how cult-like followings are built. And that's what I want for this, at least. I know there are good movies out there that don't have every single one of these characteristics I've listed, but I just don't think that can happen here. I genuinely believe this is the kind of story where you need to hit on all marks, because it all just feels essential if you want to honor the story. I don't just want to see pretty landscapes. It all better be beautiful. Tsushima is a magnificent and luxurious land full of heartbreak and adventure. There's just something about the view and layout of the island that makes every story feel more passionate and intense, and makes everything feel more comfortable. Even after all the merciless killing, everything in this game just feels so present, like everything you see must be respected. They have a chance to make every minute interesting without going places on your own and pushing through missions until the next cutscene. Don't get me wrong, the gameplay is so smooth and there's so much to offer off the fighting mechanics alone. I just mean this story feels like an opportunity to make every single scene hit. You have all the material ready to go right in front of you. Now Now this hasn't been confirmed yet, it's just been said that Sony is open to the idea of an all-Japanese cast and the movie being in Japanese. And while I respect that, and I think, hey, you know what, sticking to your roots, that's great, amazing for this movie that they haven't forgotten what the main idea is supposed to be. And I see that with the all-Japanese cast and the idea that they want the movie to be all Japanese, because that, in my mind, that says that they really don't care about a budget, they really don't care about marketing, they want to do this right, and I respect that tremendously if that is the case. However, I think this is going to be at the expense of the average viewer if they hear that it's going to be in Japanese. Now, one thing that I'm thinking is maybe release it in English in the US and Japanese in Japan. I don't know how much that would take away from the authenticity. This is just an idea that I thought would help. I'm not too sure about how the release in theaters is going to work. I don't know really anything about it. It's just an idea that I had to kind of sort of reach a compromise, because I know that it's not going to be appealing to the average viewer to know that you're going to be reading your movie. But again, just don't tell them. Just don't. Is it really that bad? Is it really that bad, Sony, if you don't tell them that the movie is going to be in Japanese? They don't really need to hear that. It's a movie. At the end of the day, you're advertising, you're marketing. Now, something that I think would be fitting would be a commercial, an advertisement where Jin is getting ready for some kind of battle, some kind of important moment, and you have Uncle talking over him him talking over the scene in Japanese, and I think that would really draw people in. It would really draw in the audience who have already experienced and are familiar with this story. I don't think people would suspect that the movie is going to be all Japanese, right? These commercials, but you're being honest while also capturing a new audience and keeping that same old audience. Now, I know what I'm basically saying is make a good adaptation, and I basically just gave my reasons for what could make a good adaptation and why I think they might mess it up. There's a good chance that they could mess it up. I know some of the things I said might seem obvious, but I feel like we've seen time and time again in cinema that it really isn't that obvious to some people. However, this movie has to be more than just a good adaptation. See, this isn't just any live adaptation. This is going to the big screen. Hollywood, baby. This isn't some beloved video game plumber turned animated film or a watered down life adaptation of your favorite detective / Olympic athlete, apparently. Seriously, did this guy ever practice these reps in non-live threatening situations? Like what? But no, this is none of that. No, this is the chance to tell a real compelling story. I believe this game is going to set the tone for future live adaptations. To me, Ghost of Tsushima can be the foundation, the example people point to and say, look, video games can come to life in the most perfect way, being just as impactful as the original body of work. I'm telling you, gamers, critics, historians, nerds in general will be lined up to watch this movie in theaters. If this movie is just decent or alright for one, it obviously won't have been worth the hype. But two, nobody's really going to care for a God of War movie or a Red Dead Redemption other than the fans. Damn it, now I really want a Red Dead Redemption movie. And I'll tell you right now, many of us won't be as excited if Ghost of Tsushima doesn't pan out. I don't even know if I'm excited right now because I know most live adaptations of video games haven't really been successful. When I say no one will care, I don't mean it won't get a huge budget or a ton of people to watch it. I just mean it wouldn't hit as hard to hear those releases after the sour taste of Ghost of Tsushima might potentially leave. Casual watchers could love it, but when something becomes popular, I genuinely believe it's the devoted fan base that elevates it into something greater. Me. And I know, why so much hubbub over a video game? Like I said, it's not just a video game or a film. It's the chance to tell a real story in the mainstream media. A real important story that, despite its huge differences with Western civilization, has many relatable moments and just an overall familiar feeling. Now, is this movie really necessary? No. But what you have here is a chance to really surprise people. Not many people are going to expect much from it, especially people who love video games.
I expect nothing. And I'm still let down.
However, they're still definitely going to check it out. Of course, it's a great way to tell an important story about a point in history and Kurosawa films, but this story has become even more than that. It's captivating, stunning, painful, satisfying, relatable, all of it. I think most of all, it's precise, just down to the last detail. This is definitely the platform that could help this experience reach a whole new audience. And that's another thing. I think fans of the game believe this film is being made for them, but I hope it isn't that, honestly. It should be about the history and art and every detail this story brings. It should be as much about Jin as it is about the events that took place all those years ago. I know I've already referred to this, but I just can't help but notice the similarities. Avatar: The Last Airbender was on the brink of being a part of the culture. Now let me explain. I'm talking really being a part of the culture. I know Avatar: The Last Airbender has a huge fan base to this day. The streets will never forget Liu Ten. R.I.P. It has a way bigger following than most cult classics do, but it's always been missing that cultural impact.
Mi gente latino.
You know what I mean? The transition to toys, video games, Halloween costumes, a movie, memes. Wait, did I say movie? Oh yeah. See, this is where The Last Airbender flame gave out. And if you're still waiting for this to connect to Ghost of Tsushima, I'm sure your flame also gave out. But just see, kids everywhere were lining up in their Aang costumes. Oh hey, this one's pretty good. Oh. Dressing up their dog as Appa, ready to be the first avatars in history to cuss out the old dude down the street who gives out senior citizen maple or caramel candy and life lessons on Halloween. I mean, damn, even my older siblings and cousins were watching this, and they were in like high school. Could you imagine high schoolers watching Nickelodeon today? Do kids in middle school watch Nick? Like, what even is on there now? But everyone who watched Avatar loved it. And then the movie came out. Since then, the show has only aged well, but the movie took such a huge dump on this franchise's marketability, they cancelled the 2 sequels, never saw a quality mainstream toy, figurine, or video game, and every kid was forced to trick-or-treat dressed up as Jake Sully? But I hope you see my point now. Now, I don't really think this movie is going to tank or do that bad. I don't think Mr. Stahelski is out of touch, or M. Night when he directed whatever that thing was.
Don't let me leave, Murph. Don't let me leave, Murph. No! No!
And I know Ghost of Tsushima doesn't need more than the caring following it already has, but I think Hollywood needs that. I think the mainstream needs that.